Many people dressed as adventurers are in this unusual place surrounded by far-off mountains and lovely forests. Indeed, they are explorers within a tower. As they go about their daily lives, they hear a tiny voice urging everyone to pay attention. They discover a talking cat trying to sell them something when they turn around. When the adventurers come across a roaming merchant cat, they are taken aback by his adorable appearance. When they inquire about what he is offering, the cat displays a cherry tomato to them. After having great expectations for the cat, the humans are not impressed with the product. They had higher expectations, such as magical potions or legendary weaponry. A typical cherry tomato was available for them to consume anytime they please. However, the cat informs them that judging the tomatoes before they were even evaluated would be silly. He says they should check its status window to find out about its unique qualities, and that the tomato he was selling was nothing exceptional. Curious, the humans glance at the magical cherry tomato's status display. When consumed, it might instantly burn 10 grams of fat and raise 0.1 MP for 10 minutes. Although the tomato has already attracted its intended market, a man remarks that the value is too low. A substance that can burn 10 grams of fat simply by consumption has the ladies going berserk. With a sly look, the cat informs them that each tomato would cost them 0.5 tower coins. He becomes afraid, though, as the female explorers charge him, offering to pay even more for all the tomatoes he has. They start competing with one another since they all want to reap the rewards. Where did the cat get the tomatoes? A guy asks. With a smile, the cat informs him that it was kept a secret. The scene of the field where those cherry tomatoes are cultivated is then displayed to us. A man appears to be packing for today as he picks up a tomato. They have enough tomatoes for the day. He informs his helper, a rabbit pushing a tomato-filled trolley. 2 rabbits are seen attempting to harvest another crop as the man orders his other employees to take a break as well. After that, the man asks a honeybee to give him some honey and squeezes a tomato into a cup. The man stirs the contents of the cup as she spits out a large drop of honey. When his special energy drink is ready, he and his helpers the bunnies share a drink. The honey and cherry tomato juice is a vitality drink, and the man says that this is how life should be. All his rabbits also raise their tiny glasses to show that they agree with him wholeheartedly. But then he is hit by a sudden quest. He has to distribute the honey and cherry tomato drink to the manager of the tower. There is no reward for the quest, but if he refuses to do it, the penalty would be disappointment. The farmer doesn't want to do it, but when another message pushes him, he agrees to complete the quest later. Just then, the cat merchant comes back to the farm. He calls the farmer Master Sejun and jumps on him. Sejun is also glad to see the cat back and says that he completed the work faster than he expected him to. A cat's name is T, and he tells Sejun that he sold out and earned a lot of tower coins. Sejun is impressed and thinks that it will not be long before he becomes famous in the tower. And when T hears this, he panics because he was keeping Sejun's name a secret. But the money-minded cat is already thinking of going to sell another round of crops after eating, as he wants to earn a lot of money. As T rushes to a black rabbit, asking him to refill his supplies, Sejun asks him to rest for a bit longer. The black rabbit shows exceptional skill at fishing and catches a few fish for T. Sejun watches T and thinks that he is addicted to earning money. But then he suddenly remembers something he had almost forgotten. Sejun takes a piece of charcoal and makes a symbol on a stone wall. The wall is half full of the same letter, and this one was the 30th. Sejun says that it has been 150 days today. He introduces himself as Park Sejun, and his class is a tower farmer. Sejun is going to harvest the crops, and the black rabbit and T jump on his shoulders and say that they will help him too. Sejun thinks back about how he has been in the tower for 150 days since he got lost. He looks at his fields, with different types of crops growing and rabbits and bees helping him out, and then he gets ready to do some work too. He then begins telling the story of how he survived after getting lost in the tower. 10 years ago, on an ordinary day, a 99-story black tower suddenly appeared in the middle of Gangnam. And it was not just in Gangnam but in every corner of the world. A total of 100 towers appeared, and every country started to investigate them. But all anyone could find was the height of the tower, which was 990 meters, and that it was made from a material strong enough to withstand nuclear bomb explosions. But then one day, people started coming out of the tower, walking right through the wall. There was an uproar, and the news reporters surrounded them. They asked the returners how they entered the tower in the first place, and the answer they got was that one day, a black hole appeared in front of them, and they got sucked into the tower. When they opened their eyes, they found themselves on the first floor of the tower. The news gathered everyone's attention, as the same incident was happening all over the world. The people who had gone missing a little while ago were suddenly found coming out of the tower. The following discoveries were made by collecting information from different people who escaped the tower, and they will be made public soon. All 100 towers are connected to one another, and when a person entered the tower, they would find themselves on the first floor. There, they would have to pick one role. either a warrior or a magician. A man is saying this in a press conference. He says that monsters start appearing on the second floor, and every time they clear a floor, they get different rewards. And if they were lucky enough, they would get a ticket like the man has. It was an item, and a rare one at that. People who were sucked into the tower were called the Awakened, and they could enter and exit the tower as they pleased. But if any ordinary person wanted to enter the tower, they would need this ticket. But it did not mean they could also climb up the floors of the tower. The reporters ask him what makes him think that people would volunteer to go into the tower, which had dangerous monsters. And the next question is, what was the purpose of the tower's appearance? The man does not know the answer to the second question, but he is going to tell everyone why one would go to the tower. On his cue, a woman comes forward with a small treasure box in her hand, and when she opens it, a heap of gold and jewels is piled up on the floor. The reporters stand up in shock, and the man on the podium tells them that he is sure of one thing: going up the tower will give them money. This was all a way to get people interested in entering the tower. The Awakened Association had the monopoly over the tickets, and they were charging a ridiculously high amount of money for them. The news of the ticket prices rising from 150 million to 200 million is live, and a woman is watching it on her smartphone. She is in a mall, shopping for vegetables, and starts talking with the cashier. She complains that people were putting their lives on the line to make money in the tower, but it was too much for them to charge 200,000 for one ticket. She asks the young cashier if he agrees with her, and he nervously tells her that she is right. He was Sejin, 26 years old, and trying to save money for something special. He calculates his savings and finds that after deducting all his expenses, he had about 12,000 to spare. He wonders how he could keep his dream alive if the prices for the tickets increased again. He is walking home after his job, and he asks himself, when will he be able to buy a ticket? But he knows that the better question was if he would ever be able to buy the ticket. He is tired of hustling so hard for money, but then he snaps out of his despair. He shouts at himself to keep his spirit up and not give up. He thinks that there will be some way to save more money. Just then, he thinks of the vegetables he had bought at a low price. He could plant them because he had heard that their price was also increasing, and he had seen an advertisement for an automatic vegetable grower recently. It was endorsed by none other than his favorite idol, Sarah. Sejin starts thinking optimistically, almost too optimistically. He thinks if he saves the money and buys a ticket, he might land a contract with a good guild. And then, if he cleared the tower, he would propose to his celebrity crush, Sarah. Sejin imagines how good that headline would look as he giggles. He cheers himself up, but then he notices something weird happening behind him. Sejin turns back to see a black hole-like portal and recognizes it as the vanishing point. It was the same phenomenon that sucked in the first generation of the Awakened. Sejin is excited. He thinks that the vanishing was here for him. He declares that he is ready to risk his life to climb up the tower and asks the black hole to take him in. But nothing happens. Instead, the hole starts shrinking, and Sejin is shocked, asking why it is getting smaller. But the hole is getting even smaller and is about to vanish. Sejin panics, saying that he will not let an opportunity like this pass him by. If the vanishing would not take him, he would come to it himself. As he says these words, Sejin jumps inside the hole. He lands on his face when he reaches the other side. He picks himself up and wonders if he really made it inside the tower. Sejin excitedly looks up, speaking of all the things he knew were on the first floor. He wanted to see the fancy chandeliers, marble plaza, and shops selling potions and equipment, but there is nothing like that here. Sejin is in a desolate hole somewhere in the wild. It is an underground dome with an opening at its top through which sunlight pours inside. Sejin gets up and looks at his surroundings, having no clue at all about where he was. He cannot believe it and screams in dissatisfaction, asking where the hell he was. And we see that he was somewhere far away from the tower, in the middle of a forest. Inside the top floor of the Black Tower, a crystal orb is glowing red and beeping. We see the silhouette of a dragon looking at that crystal ball with shock. The ball had detected a change in the tower, and the dragon must find the cause, because that was its duty as the manager of the tower. But neither the dragon nor Sejin have any idea about each other yet. Sejin recalls everything he had heard about the tower's first floor in the interviews with the Awakened. Someone said it was like a very spacious palace, and there were many things that they could buy there. Yet another man said in an interview that the training hall was the most important thing on the first floor. That is what Sejin had heard, but looking at his place, he wonders where he was. A small pond of water, an overhead opening for sunlight, and a cave that surrounded him on all sides. This was all he could see right now. Sejin is defeated by his fate, and he is sitting on a corner, visibly exhausted and utterly devastated. He had roamed the cave for an entire day and found no exit. There was no training ground or store. In fact, there was nothing here at all. He had screamed for help, and no one heard his call, which meant no one was even around this place. And there is only one possibility that comes to his mind, and it terrifies him. He was lost inside the tower. As he is having a bout of panic, his phone alarm rings. Seijin is sure that his alarm is accurate, and it marked that one whole day had passed here. His stomach growls, and Seijin admits that he was hungry. He takes out all the things he had with him: a bottle of water, some cherry tomatoes, green onions, sweet potatoes, and an apple. That was all Seijin had with him, and he decided to eat the apple first. Eating an apple in the morning was something he liked, and the one he just ate is too delicious. But it is not nearly enough, and Seijin eats a sweet potato after it. And the texture, taste, and moistness of the sweet potato were something he was not expecting. It was much better than he expected it to be, even though it was raw. But because he was talking while eating, he choked on the sweet potato and drank water to swallow it. Then he lies down and thinks that it was a good meal. Seijin looks at the open roof of the cave and wonders how long he will stay here. He must find a way to escape before he runs out of food. He looks at the small amount of food he has and wonders how long it will last him. At this rate, he will die of starvation if he is not rescued. But Seijin kicks the thought out of his mind, determined that he will not die like this. It was his dream to get into the tower, and now that he was finally here, he was not going to die right away. He has an idea when he sees the apple core. Seijin takes it and plants it in the soil. Then he takes a green onion and snaps it near the base. He plans to eat the leaves as food and plant the roots to get more crops. He also takes 3 tomatoes and 2 sweet potatoes and plants them. Whatever is left now will be his food till the crops grow. Seijin says that he will do anything it takes to survive. That is, until his crop plants grow up. He addresses them and says that he will wait for them. They are his future. But just then, Seijin hears the scream of a monster that makes his hair stand on end. He is shocked. What he just heard was the sound of a monster. But there are no records of monsters on the first floor. And then everything turns dark, and Seijin looks up to find something even more shocking. The moon has eclipsed the sun, and Seijin knows that it was a blue moon. He hears the deafening scream of the monster again, and his body cannot take the pressure the scream puts on it. And just as the screams stop, Seijin notices a black dragon flying in the sky. He is mesmerized by the black dragon and says that it is beautiful. Then he loses consciousness and goes into a deep slumber. But something strange is happening with his green onions. They start shimmering at the top, and new growth starts. Seijin is woken up by his alarm, and his head is still aching. He looks at his phone to see how long he slept, and he gets startled when he finds that he was unconscious for 2 whole days. Because he slept for 2 days on hard ground, his back is aching, and he is much more tired than before. But as he sits down, complaining that his whole body is hurting, his back gets some support. Seijin turns back to see a plant and wonders where a tree came from. But then he looks at it again and finds that it was a green onion plant, the same one he had planted. All of them had grown, and they were gigantic. Seijin is perplexed. He wonders if green onions could grow this big in just 2 days. He realizes that this unnatural growth must be a property of the tower. He had seen a documentary that taught how the growth of plants was dependent on the environment, and he is sure that the tower's power has affected the green onions. Seijin is hit by the realization that maybe other crops are also ready now, and as he excitedly checks them, he finds that tomato seedlings have also emerged from the ground. He is excited about his plants growing, but then he notices that the green onion plants are blocking sunlight. He decides to cut them off so that his tomato seedlings can also get sunlight. He breaks the green onions a fair bit above their base, and it is a harder task than he thought. Seijin has finished harvesting, and he wonders what the green onion leaf would taste like. He takes a bite and burns his mouth because the leaf was spicier than anything he had tasted before. He splashes his mouth with the water of the pond, complaining that the leaf is much more spicy than the original one. But even though his mouth was scorched, his stomach did not feel the heat. Seijin thinks that he can get used to this, and whenever he needs something spicy, this will be great. He decides to dry the other green onions and save them for later. He goes back to his regular sitting spot, a rock in the center of the cave, and starts eating tomatoes. The sun never set in the tower, but occasionally there are instances where the moon eclipsed it, and this phenomenon was called the blue moon. But the blue moon did not happen until the 10th floor. Seijin believed that he was somewhere on the 1st floor, but now he is not sure. And what was even more confusing was the dragon. It was not an illusion, and Seijin does not know which floor it was found on. When the tower appeared 10 years ago, one of the major guilds, called the Phoenix Guild, cleared the 37th floor. It was an achievement that has not been topped yet, and because of this, the information about floors 30 to 37 was kept secret from the world. But there was plenty of information about the floors below 30. The floors until the 10th floor had skeleton monsters. From 11 to 20, it was goblins, and from 21 to 30, it was orcs. Seijin had heard some rumors about spider monsters being found on floors above 31. But there was no surety of the news. Yet he had never heard anything about a dragon. He had never heard of anything mildly similar to it, not even lizard monsters. Seijin is lying down as he wonders if he is on a floor so high that no one has yet reached it. But then water drops fall on his face, and Sejin gets up. Was it raining in the tower? He had heard that the weather was almost always pleasant, and as he looks up, the sky is clear too. But he spots something moving very fast and gets scared that it is a monster. But the creature he just saw comes forward, and it is a cute rabbit drooling over Sejin's crops. Sejin is surprised and wonders if the rabbit was a monster too. The rabbit jumps down the hole, and Sejin rushes to catch it. But the rabbit uses his head as a stepping stone and lands safely on the ground. He hops to the green onion plants, and Sejin realizes that the rabbit was something extraordinary. The rabbit points at the green onion plants, and Sejin asks if he wants to eat them. The rabbit gives his response, and Sejin understands that he wants to eat. He breaks the leaf of the green onion and gives it to the rabbit, who gladly takes it. He eats it greedily, and Sejin tells him that he could have more if he liked it. And then Sejin notices that the plants have already grown back. At this rate, he will have to harvest them twice daily. But the rabbit starts saying something loudly, and Sejin finds he is not talking to him. He looks above, to the entrance of the cave, and finds another rabbit coming towards them. She lands and hands the first rabbit a straw hat and a watering can, and they both stand in front of Sejin. Sejin is surprised to see another rabbit, but then he thinks that the two are somehow related. He asks the rabbits if they are married, and they tell him that he is right. Sejin starts thinking of keeping a diary of his life in the tower. Then on the first page of that diary, there will be the story of a rabbit couple who joined him in the cave. Comments: let us know what you enjoyed best about this story. In order to see the next installment of this story and more Manhwa recaps like this, don't forget to like and subscribe.